Hello everyone, and welcome to the Atelier Nekozuki podcast. My name is Katie, and this is episode 70, and today is Thursday, April 11th, 2019. Hi to any new viewers, and welcome back to all my returning viewers. Thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Today obviously is Thursday instead of Wednesday. But Dallas and I had a good chat about kind of schedules and how we're managing some things coming up here, and I think Thursdays will be a lot less disruptive of a schedule for us, and then I don't disrupt the podcast because of whatever reason. Honestly, it does feel a little bit crunched because I typically have a class in the morning and then I actually have an evening class for Japanese, but I'll be actually finishing that in a few weeks, so I think this will work. When it will be really disrupted is show season, obviously, is coming up. And so stuff like TNNA in June might disrupt it. I feel like I should be able to record down there, to be honest. And then Knit City for sure disrupts it because I drive out to Vancouver on Thursday, or at least start the drive. Honestly, I've always driven out in one bit on Thursday. So I'm there for the show for setup on Friday. But, in that case, for Knit City for sure, what I'll do is I'll record on Wednesday instead and post it so that you have it ready for your viewing pleasure on the weekend. And then with TNNA, I will figure it out. I'm pretty sure I can record down there. It might still be the Wednesday, but then obviously it'll be all posted for you to view on the weekend, because that's the main idea. If you don't want to try and keep up with all of these schedule changes, the best way to actually keep abreast of the situation is the newsletter, because I'll send out the newsletter every week. That will go out every Friday, and basically what it does is it's got a highlighted print of the week from the shop, it's got the podcast, and it's got events news, and then that's the weekly one. There'll be special announcements for sales and like other things too. So yeah, I do have a little tiny bit of shop news, but I'll keep that till the end simply because then you can do just the knitting, or you can do the knitting and the shop news as well. Because I know most of you are probably here for a bit of a combo of both, but I really don't have anything else new to show you right now. So for the shop, at least, I'm working on it. I honestly am. That's actually what this week has to be, is I got to do a little bit more product development before I make the announcement. But it's coming. I promise. I've got a couple things, actually. A few things. Yes, a few things. I'm like, wait a minute. How many things am I trying to accomplish? And it's actually quite a few. Anyway, I do have a faux. I finished my... Let's get into the knitting. I finished my vanilla rainbow socks. This is Crazy Dog Yarns. These were knit on US 1 2.25 millimeter needles. And what ended up happening is I knit the tubes and then I did the afterthought heel. Now I had that long ramble, I think it was last week, about how afterthought heels don't fit me. So I was going to try a different heel, and I did. I did the Laura Linneman Afterthought Heels Revisited. So I'm trying to fold the sock so I can show you the difference. So this is my typical heel. I usually do a short row heel, because what I end up finding is that, as I was trying to explain, this area in here, I have high arches, as far as I can tell. Like, it's not like I've gone to the doctor and they've been like, you have high arches. But my socks have a really hard time fitting over my ankle. Because literally what you're doing is you're taking a tube and then turning it so that it'll fit around whatever it, like the heel, whatever it needs to fit around. Which there's only so much stretch you can have this way. So I've found previously that short row heels work the best. Now, when I do short row heels on socks while I'm knitting them. This was a short row heel while I was knitting them. But I also do afterthought short row heels where I cut it, I pick up the stitches, cut the middle strand, and then I'll knit my short row heel, and knit my short row heel, and then Kitchener stitch across the top, which works. It actually works surprisingly well. But the thing about that is then I have to Kitchener stitch 32 stitches, which in the end of it all is not that big a deal. But honestly, if I can do an afterthought heel, it's like, well, 8 to 10 stitches at the heel itself. because obviously you work, so the afterthought heel works in decreasing instead of back out increasing. Anyway, so that's usually what I do for my heel. However, Laura Linneman has released an afterthought heel. It's called Afterthought Heels Revisited, because what she did is she added gussets to the bottom of the afterthought heel, guys, and they fit. They fit. I'm so excited about this because it actually makes my sock knitting so much easier. So there's a little bit of a gusset here, and then you do your normal. So how you set up for an afterthought heel, a true afterthought heel, not an afterthought short row heel, is you knit, 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 knit. You saw the tubes last week if you watched the podcast. And then I did the exact same thing I did for the short, if I'm doing an afterthought short row heel, is I ran a needle around. You pick up stitches. If you are doing afterthought heels, pick up the right hand leg of your stitches. That's something I learned when I first started doing afterthought heels, because I have done them. And obviously with the short row heel too, it's just not traditionally shaped. Anyway, yeah, pick up the right hand leg of your stitches, because that means that they won't be twisted when you put them, like when you go to knit. So I picked up the stitches and then I cut the yarn like you would for any kind of afterthought heel, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing an afterthought. And then you work little tiny, you knit one round. It's a free pattern, so I don't feel too bad letting you know what this is. And then you work short row gussets. Short row gussets. And then you go into the traditional like afterthought heel, which is decreasing on either side until you reach the end. That's all it is. Also, I love how the like stripes matched up on these. I just don't have any green, which was kind of like, oh, I want green on it, and then I could have had like a full like stripe repeat. Anyway, so what you end up doing is you do the afterthought heel, you decrease down, and then you Kitchener stitch only 8 stitches instead of 32. Or in this case, actually, I've decided that I don't need to decrease that extra bit, because actually, so I did one with 10 and I did one with 8. The one with 8, which is the first one I did, actually gives me like a heel nipple. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like a little bit of loose fabric at the back of my heel, which is going to rub my foot, and it doesn't fit as well. It still fits. So I did one with 8 instead, which decreased the amount of like knitting by 2 rounds. Fits perfect. So it fits over my ankle now. Let me pull this back out so you get a better idea. What this does is it gives you more space in here. I don't know why I'm pointing at it, like you can see the side closest to me. Yeah, it fits better in here. It fits my heel really well, and it just like, I'm super happy with it. So it worked, because that was the thing. I haven't actually done this heel before. I didn't know if it was going to work, and it did. So excited, guys. Now this is, it's a fingering weight yarn, but it is a little bit heavier, so that could have affected like, well, that would affect row gauge. So that might be why I have a little bit of heel nipple on the 8 stitched Kitchener stitch, 8 stitch heel. But I should actually know that, because generally what I do to cast on for me is I usually cast on a toe of 12 stitches on either side, so 24 total. So yeah, it makes sense that a like 10 stitch decrease would fit my foot better, because my feet are not narrow. Anyway, that's what I did. If you have problems with your heels fitting and you don't want to do a heel flap and gusset, honestly, heel flap and gusset does actually fit me the best, probably, I think, kind of, out of everything. But the thing is that I work with so many self-striping yarns that I don't want to disrupt my striping sequence, because I like matchy-matchy socks, and I'm picky about my socks. And how my yarn matches. So I'm really happy that this works, because it means that I can actually do afterthought heels on my self-striping socks and not have to worry about that. And like, they are so matchy, guys. I'm so happy with them. And I will be doing this on Dallas's next pair of socks too. I don't think he has a problem with it like not being high enough, but you know, he doesn't know the difference unless I knit it too. So speaking of which, I cast on a new pair of socks. So I know I've got a whole whip basket, but, or work in progress basket. But he needs, I knit these for myself last summer, so he needs the matchy pair. So this is the stationery set by Yarn Enabler, and it's the pencil and paper. And they are going extremely fast. I'm actually quite surprised. I don't know if it's because I've had a lot of knitting time this week, or I've gotten faster knitting, or what, but they're going, they're cranking along. These will be the ones that I do the Afterthought heel with the gusset as well, because I've got leftovers from mine in the yellow and this stripy set, so I am just going to knit the full sock all the way through and then bind off, because what ends up happening is then I've got a tiny little mini skein for like an eraser at the top of the pencil, and the notebook paper actually goes up to the red line, and oh, I'm so excited. I love them. And I have been saving my socks to wear until I finish his, so yeah. I would estimate that I am maybe a third of the way through. Maybe-ish. They're not short socks, so we'll see how it goes. Those are actually living in my knot bag, as per most of my projects right now, just because it's super simple. And yeah, they actually went out for a walk with me the other day, and they're going to be my carry-along knitting for class. Actually, I cast them on just before I went to class, Japanese class last week. And so I was increasing in class. Yes, I knit during class. It's not that I'm bored, it's that if I don't, I'll doodle in my notebook, and then I'm really not paying attention. Knitting, I'm able to multitask with it. It just keeps my hands busy, so I do knit during class. It's actually one of the main reasons I kept knitting through university. I'm sure it drove some of my I know it drove one professor for sure. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. It didn't really bother anyone else, but I could tell it bothered him. It didn't stop though, because I was like, well, it's my education, so I'm gonna work with whatever I can and whatever resources I have to be able to get the best like work out of it. And honestly, it was a high enough level that it felt like it was just him like sounding off about his thesis work with us. And there are a few classes in my university career. Most of them have kind of faded away because honestly, it's like, it's an English degree. I'm really glad I did it. But one of the main reasons I did it was I wanted to do the exchange. And because I enjoy literature. I enjoy reading. That was basically why. And like most of my classes, like if they were fine and they were good, I don't really remember much about them. But there are two classes that stand out in my head of like, one was absolutely horrendous. And that was one of my literature classes actually in Japan. Taught by a poli-sci professor. I don't get it. It was just weird, and he made everything too objective instead of realizing that like English is very subjective, or literature is very subjective. So that was interesting. And then this other class that I bothered this professor in with my knitting. Here's Miss Dahlia to visit. She's like, why are you holding me, Mom? Stop holding me. I just wanted to like pester you. She'll probably sit down there for a few minutes. Anyway, so yeah, so this other class that I was annoying the professor, and so I was just kind of like, whatever. It's my education. I will do it the best I can, the way I can too. But exciting. Hey, at least I kept knitting. I am 2 repeats into the back of the Hito Fude now. Well, almost 2 repeats. I've got one more, like 2 more rows in the chart of the second repeat here. So I've joined the arms and I'm into the back and the body. So it goes down and around under the arms and through the back and then up the other side. So I'm not into the increased section yet. I'm just doing I think it's basically the establishment rose. Also, I don't know how I missed this when I was actually looking at the pattern, but look at how those lines line up. And I'm so proud that I actually got my lines to line up, to be honest. Hey, don't chew the yarn. So I'm super happy with this. This did go slower, I think, because I've hit a bit of a doldrums boredom with it, but I am going to keep cranking it out. It would be nice to actually have this done for Edmonton Fiber Frolic in May. I keep pushing the deadline back. I'm like, oh, Katie, stop it. It doesn't need to be done by then, although I would like it to be done by then. So we'll see. I moved my progress keeper down, so he or she goes right there. So there's that. I'm still not through a full ball of yarn yet, which is absolutely insane to me. So like, and at the top I was alternating skeins, and then I decided to be a rebel and not alternate skeins for the body. There's so much lace, and what I will end up doing, so this is still the first 2 balls, guys. It's absolutely insane to me. Like, I might need to crack into a 3rd, maybe. The thing I worry about now is like, am I on gauge? Is it gonna fit? But anyway, what I will do is, as I get closer to the end of this one, I'll start alternating this one in so that there isn't like a big shift, or at least not as noticeable. Honestly, I feel like they're so closely dyed that you're not going to be able to really notice much anyway. And with the lace, like, it's a busy enough, it's not that busy, but it's a busy enough pattern that I don't think you're going to notice. So, famous last words, right? But anyway, that is the plan right now. That, and I was getting tired of carrying yarn up the side, especially because you have, like, you switch at the sleeves, and so my one side of my sleeve where I'm switching colors isn't as nice as without it. Dahlia. Sorry, Dahlia is in here, and she is a plastic obsessed cat, so she's trying to dig in plastic stuff. So I'll try to distract her and get her back up here. Come here. Oh, so she doesn't keep digging through plastic. All right, so that's all the knitting, which actually is quite a decent amount. What else has happened? So shenanigans. We actually went to the zoo. We've purchased an annual pass to the zoo. We went in January, and basically, as long as you do 2 visits in a year and a bit, you're paid off. We also upgraded the payment so that we could have free parking, which honestly is a fantastic deal. So we've literally paid both our passes off already. The main reason for this is because they actually have pandas right now. And so we went and saw the pandas again, and they were active. They fed them, so they were actually moving around and eating and stuff like that. So that was really cool. Because last time we went, like in January, they were just sleeping. That's all they were doing. Actually, there was one in the back that was eating bamboo, but like not in the main exhibit. Actually, and a good part of the animals were super active this time. So like we saw them move around. The Komodo dragon was really active too, which was cool. We started in the Canadian wild section, and there was actually a bear way up a tree, which I thought, well, yeah, it was quite a spectacle for me. Dallas laughed at me because it was like, you were so shocked to see him up the tree, and it's like, well, you don't normally see bears up a tree for like no reason. I will say that the snow leopards were a lot more active last time, but honestly, beggars can't be choosers. So yeah, I think we'll keep going back. She's a sweet girl. Otherwise, yeah, we were Dallas. Right, by the time I recorded last time, we knew that Dallas had passed his exam. And so let's see. So we went to the zoo, and oh my gosh, there was other stuff too, but I can't remember what it was. Because, you know, life. Oh, we were doing Nier Automata, which is the video game Dallas is playing. In Madhouse. There's Dahlia on one side and Flynn on the other, and they're both in the mood, apparently. Anyway, yeah, we went to, sorry, Dallas has been playing Nier Automata on Xbox One, And so we finished the first bit of the game and are kind of now in the second bit and still don't really know what's going on. Hey, leave it alone. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting how they're doing the second bit as well. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here. And then the new anime. Jeez. Sorry, guys. I am a mess today, apparently. Maybe I shouldn't be recording on Thursdays. But then the new anime season has started. So I think they qualify it as spring season now. So I'm going through and I'm watching like the first episode of a bunch of different anime to see what I want to continue watching and what I'm really not interested in. The one that looks good so far, and I'll put titles actually in the show notes because I don't remember them off the top of my head. Yeah, the only one that's actually standing out is Demon Slayer. And there's a bunch of other stuff in that title, so I'll write it in the show notes instead. So yes, I sat down and did like first episodes of a bunch the other day. There's a bunch of like half episodes and like short webisodes as well. It's really interesting because like when I was in university over in Japan on exchange, there's Axis Power's Italia, which is like World War II told through Germany, Italy, and Japan, personified basically. And they were like 5-minute episodes. And I don't think there was a lot of anime doing that at that time. But like, I would say half of the season that I've watched so far was normal length episodes, which is generally like that 20 to 22 minute half-hour slots. And then the other half were like 3 minutes or 12 minutes or yeah, like some very different timing. Now I wonder if that's partly well, I guess it probably is a budgetary consideration for sure. And if that means that like more can be produced or what. But most of the shorter ones, I'm just kind of like, meh. I'm probably not very interested in actually watching them. One of them is about a doll that comes to life from an anime into the real world, into this like super fan's house, and it's got all the usual overtones of like that are really awkward for me, at least, to watch as a woman especially. So I'm just kind of like, I don't think I need to actually continue watching that one. Now most anime I will give a 2-episode trial. If it doesn't like absolutely catch me by the second episode, it's out of the queue. That's just, you can't keep up with everything. Not everything's going to interest you. The one disappointing thing is like one of the ones that I was like, yes, this does actually look really good, wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. So we'll see. I'll write down everything that I have sampled so far. And give you a general idea of like what I thought of them as in the show notes as well. So, because that'll probably be the easiest way than me trying to like rack my brain and remember everything I wanted to say about them. Especially since like some of them, it might change in the next couple weeks, and then I will write another mini review for them at that point. So that was the big thing this week. I have not been working on the super secret project, and I feel like it's almost time to tell you about it. But it still does need a little bit of work before I do, I think. But the exciting part of it is that it means that there will be another big sale, actually. Screw it, let's tell you. So you might have noticed my recording location has changed in the last few weeks, and it's been consistent, but that's because we've developed the basement. So my studio can move downstairs, and that's actually where it is. So right now, we're actually sitting in the old studio because everything has been moved out of here downstairs for sewing, at least. The stock is still up here. And like we've got the actual sewing studio side done, which is fantastic. So I'm actually working downstairs when I'm working. So for product development and such. The biggest thing about this is it means that a lot of the supplies that I brought in last year that I could no longer physically fit to cut, guys, I can now use. So like canvases that came on rolls that are 60 inches wide. Yeah, that sort of thing. So like stuff that I didn't anticipate. Upholstery rolls, like upholstery vinyl that did the exact same thing. And those are both products to be able to start to develop other products. So they kind of sat around last year, and it was actually really annoying because I was like, I want to work on these things, but I can't because I physically can't fit them on my cutting table. Like I don't, yeah, the way it was done before, both my sewing machine and my cutting table were perpendicular to each other. Perpendicular to the walls beside each other, let's say that. So wall, and then cutting table, sewing machine kind of idea. So I don't think the roll, I think it was like too wide this way. So I'd like, my table wasn't wide enough anyway, so I couldn't accurately cut it. And then on top of it, I don't know if the roll would have laid down properly between the cutting table. Like I don't think there's enough space between this wall and where the sewing machine was to even do it. Anyway, it's exciting. I've moved downstairs. But what that does mean is that there will be a big stock sale, so I don't have to move as many bags downstairs. There have obviously been quite a few adjustments in pricing and everything like that recently, shipping as well for Canadians. But I will be putting it on sale here in the next little bit. Probably not this week, maybe next week. I'll make an official decision and let you know. Just so I don't have to move as much, because it was already a lot of work to move what's down there down. It is still, basically all I did is I packed up the mess and moved it downstairs. So it is not ready to be shown, but it's almost there. So I will show you guys when it's actually done. We also have to finish the flooring, and there's a few other like finishing things we have to do that we have to wait for summer. And Dallas is doing the flooring, so he said, don't do it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I've done a lot of work downstairs. He did all the framing, or the majority of the framing, and then we did have a contractor come in and actually do our drywall, which was a good decision, because honestly, it took them so long to do it, like between two people. And like not a long time, but like it took them a week to do it. So honestly, the amount of like stress and figuring out that Dallas and I would have had to do to finish it just wasn't worth it. So I'm glad we had someone come in and do that. But I did mud and tape the drywall, which was a good decision for this development, and I'm never doing it again. Everyone kept telling me that, and I'm like, well, if I go into it more of a like headset, hopefully of like, okay, I can do this, and I totally can. It's not like it's, I was gonna say it's not like it's a physically like labor intensive job to do mud and tape, but it totally was a labor intensive job to do the mud and tape. My poor shoulders, and like getting up and down on a stepladder consistently. I got my exercise, guys. So yeah, so I did the mud and tape, and then I also painted. I love painting, so that was easy-ish. And then I've still got some places to like paint over because I splotched ceiling paint on the color. But I figure we'll go through and set everything up, get all the dings out of the way that are gonna happen from moving stuff down, get all the like scuffs and all of that done, and then I'll go through and touch up. And then the things we need to do in the summer is actually trim, because we'll need to prime, or not prime, but we'll need to actually paint it before it gets installed. Sorry, now Kitten is in the like bins. It's a good thing he's cute. Anyway, trim. I didn't want to paint it downstairs and put more stuff on the floor, so we're going to paint it out in the garage, and then even though I moved in, we can just kind of pull everything away from the walls and then just put it in place. That also gives the floor a little bit of time to kind of settle and like do any expansion or shrinkage or anything like that too. So yeah, so that's the plan right now. We also will have to take the doors off and actually paint them because I thought they were white when we put them in. And they are primed for white, but they're not white. So we'll have to paint those too. What else? So yeah, that's actually the big news, and that's the super secret project. I will give you guys an official tour once it's all done. The lighting down there is so much better. The light fixture that I have in this room currently is actually, I thought it'd be way better than it is. And it's actually been a pain since we moved in. So I'm super excited because like my task lighting is way better now. And it's going to be really awesome to have everything in one place, because right now, or previously, the studio was on the main floor and then the office was upstairs. And I understand that saying that, I am extremely spoiled with how I was able to have the space to run my business and to even be able to move it within my own space into a basement, to have the ability to finish it, to be able to even do that is amazing. And thanks to you guys and all of your purchases for Atelier Nekozuki, thanks to Dallas having a fantastic job. Like that's how it's just been possible. So I do know that that is coming very much from a place of privilege, that I even had that choice and that I even had the space before, because I know a lot of people running small businesses like this, they have to do it out of a corner or off the dining room table, and I've been there, and it creates its own challenges. So the nice thing is now it's all in one space. Once the stock moves down, the office is going to move into the same space. It means I can actually set up a bit of more of a official photo studio and all of that. So I'm really excited. The other absolutely amazing thing is the fact that this room now is a hobby room. So when we did move into the space, we actually did plan that the room I'm in right now would be the studio. Now, Nekozuki grew way more than either of us anticipated in a very short amount of time. So that's partly why we've been able to move it out and why we've had to move it out. But now I actually have my own space that isn't related to work. It's not related to school. It's like just for pleasure. Which, if that was in any other context, I would totally be thinking that you're thinking about like whips and chains on the wall or something like that. Which there are none. There are none here. There is a loom beside me and there is yarn on this side. But yeah, like it's really, it feels weird to have that kind of space, because honestly, I have never had a space where it was just meant for nothing but like a hobby, because I was homeschooled and a lot of my work happened in my bedroom, or like throughout the house. Before this point with the business, it happened everywhere in the house. I'm sure you've seen photos on Instagram of like, yeah, work on the couch, work on the kitchen table, because I didn't have the physical space in here. And honestly, it was confining to be in this space with the mess that it ended up being. Now, again, there's so many things I could have done to like fix that, but honestly, sometimes you don't have the time when you're in show prep mode. So downstairs, even with the current mess that I've just basically moved, there's so much more space to work, and it already feels better. It's got way more natural light, and like I am so excited to show it to you once it's all done. So, and to have this space just for me, which is really interesting. Well, me and the cats, because if I didn't let the cats in, they would be at the door, scratching at the door, yowling and caterwauling and telling me that I'm a terrible cat mom for not letting them in. So, me and the cats. So yeah, there's a few things to fix up here. I've still got all the stock. Actually, all the stock is in the yarn room right now, just because then it's accessible. And we're really close to moving my like stock storage. Basically, I've got big dressers for it from IKEA, but we're really close to moving that storage downstairs. So I don't really want to take it upstairs, just to move it down in like 3 weeks or so. So it's temporarily living in the yarn room, and then it'll be all nice and tidy, and I'll be able to like go about my merry business. So yeah, so there's that. That's the big shop news. I am in product development, as I hinted at last week, and I realized that there's one more thing I really want to work on, specifically for knitting, and then over the summer there'll be more development of product that isn't related to knitting. My first show is Edmonton Fiberfrolic on May, I can't remember if it's the 26th or the 25th. I know the 6th is a Monday, so it's on the 25th. Yes. And I actually just added another show in Calgary specifically. It'll be the Inglewood Night Market. I'm doing Friday, July 12th, and that runs from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. And I've got one of the trunk spaces. So literally I will be selling my product out of the back of the truck, which sounds hilarious to me now that I actually say it out loud. But yeah, I'll be there. So come down and see me if you're in Calgary visiting for Calgary Stampede. It's actually the second Friday of Calgary Stampede, so make sure to come say hi. I would really appreciate seeing you. And all the Calgary knitters, it's something to do outside of Stampede. Now, I am a big Stampede fan, but I get that a lot of people aren't. So yeah, it's a good event to do without having to go down to the Stampede grounds. So, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's nice weather because it is an outdoor market. I haven't actually done, I've never done a true outdoor market. I have done markets where I am in the building of an outdoor market, but that's the closest I've ever come. So fingers crossed that the weather's good. It is July, so it's either we're going to have torrential downpours with thunder and lightning, or we'll be super hot and dying. Especially during Stampede week, it's kind of like the two extremes. So let's hope that it's the latter. I would prefer the heat to the rain, that's for sure. But I really think that that is all of the news. I will give, like I said, I'll give you a studio tour once it's done, and then I'll give you a nice tour of the yarn room once it's all done and set up. And yeah, there's not much else happening around here, guys, but I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will chat with you soon. So happy crafting. Bye.